They say love don't always knock loud. Sometimes it slips in quiet and stays longer than you meant it to. Hey, I'm Alex LeMan. These stories, they're about that kind of love. The kind that leaves a mark, even after the door's closed. Love that's tender, tangled, and true. A little messy, a little magic. Some of it heals, some of it haunts, but all of it real. So settle in and let your heart listen. Shelter of Rain and Love. Chapter 1. The Woman in the Library. Parking lot. Hold the gate a minute, the night guard called, jingling a ring of keys that chimed in the cold air. Mr. Harris stopped halfway into his sedan, the interior light spilling onto the asphalt like a small stage. A child's laugh, bright, too bright for midnight, echoed beneath the rust-colored branches of a magnolia that leaned over the chain-link fence. He frowned, stepped out, and let the door click shut. The parking lot behind Augusta Central Library lay in patches of dim orange light and long, uncertain shadows. Beside the last lamp, a woman knelt on cracked concrete, her silhouette sharp against a mural of black poets painted on the back wall. Denise Turner. He recognized the tidy braid falling down her jacket, the library badge still clipped at her collar. She murmured to someone hidden in the dark, "Marcus, chew slow, baby, you'll choke." Her voice was soft, but carried a tremor that tangled around Mr. Harris's ribs. A smaller voice replied, something about peanut butter, and then another laugh fluttered out like a startled sparrow. Mr. Harris took 3 quiet steps forward. A gust stole the warmth from his coat and filled the air with the scent of wet leaves and exhaust drifting up from the riverfront highway 2 blocks away. Denise tore a sandwich in half. 2 boys slipped from behind an SUV's tire, barefoot on the chilly pavement. One wore his mother's old sweater as a makeshift cloak. The other hugged a frayed backpack. "Apple first," she insisted, pressing the fruit into the younger boy's palm. He winced at the cold skin of it, then grinned and bit down. Denise watched him, her own lips parting as if she felt the taste through him. She didn't lift the second half of the sandwich to her mouth. Instead, she wrapped it again and tucked it back into the bag. Mr. Harris's heartbeat started to drum in his ears. He remembered greeting her at orientation 6 months earlier. Her steady eye contact, the slight bow of her shoulders like someone apologizing for taking up room she'd already earned. He recalled thinking she seemed unbreakable. Tonight, the certainty slipped through his fingers. Tires hissed along Reynolds Street beyond the trees. A distant train horn moaned over the Savannah River. The boys finished eating and began an eager game of chase between the parked cars, their laughter ricocheting off metal doors. When Denise rose to follow them, the fluorescent glow revealed the raw red imprint of tired knees on her jeans. She rubbed them once, inhaled, and drew her sweater tighter across her chest. One of the children darted toward the exit, and Mr. Harris's instinct overruled caution. He stepped from the shadows and gently caught the boy by the shoulders. "Easy there, champ," he whispered. The child froze, wide-eyed. Denise spun around, her breath catching audibly when she saw the director's tall frame beside her son. "Mr. Harris." "Aye, sir, I'm sorry. We'll be gone in a second." She pushed a brave smile to her face, but her cheek twitched. "The bus. It doesn't run past 11. We're waiting on a friend." He glanced at her hands, thin, trembling slightly, smelling of lemon cleaner even in the crisp air. "Denise, do you have a ride? It's late." His voice tried for casual, but the concern bled through. She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded. "We're fine, really." The older boy tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Mommy, I'm cold." She stroked his hair with a tenderness that made Mr. Harris's throat tighten. Headlights sliced across the lot, then veered away. Silence flooded back in. Above them, the mural's painted eyes seemed to judge his hesitation. He searched for a neutral question and found none. Every word felt like an intrusion into a story she had not invited him to read. Denise lifted the smaller boy into her arms. The child's head dropped onto her shoulder, trusting and heavy. She flinched at the weight but held him firm, rocking slightly. Moonlight glinted on the single tear she tried to blink away. To cover it, she laughed, too brightly, at something the older boy said about superheroes who never slept. A distant siren wailed. It faded into the kind of hush that only southern midnights know, thick with humidity and secrets. Mr. Harris's pulse matched the siren's last echo. He wanted to ask why she hadn't eaten, why the boys had no shoes, why pride looked so much like surrender, and yet felt powerfully defiant. Instead, he managed, "Would you let me call a cab? Library will cover it." Her back stiffened. "I appreciate that, sir, but we're okay." She shifted the sleeping child and offered another strained smile. "I clock back in at 7. I'll see you then." He watched her lead the older boy toward the bus stop beyond the fence, feet whispering through fallen magnolia petals. A thin fog rolled off the river and curled around the street lamp, turning the scene ghostly. When she reached the sidewalk, she paused, sensing his eyes. She lifted her hand in a small wave, gratitude and apology tangled together. Then she disappeared into the mist. Mr. Harris remained beside the mural, the faces of Gwendolyn Brooks and Langston Hughes staring down, as though challenging him to rewrite the night's ending. Cold crept through his shoes, but he didn't move until the bus groaned up Reynolds and swallowed the 3 silhouettes. Even then he stood, heart wrestling with something new and urgent, as the taillights slipped into darkness and the parking lot returned to silence. Chapter 2. 2 Sons and 1. Tired Mother. The neon vacancy sign at the Magnolia Inn sputtered like a tired heartbeat, drizzling pink light across room 23. Denise slid the key home as thunder rolled over the Savannah River a mile away. Inside, the air smelled of bleach and faint mildew. A single lamp flickered next to 2 narrow beds. Marcus, the 7-year-old, rushed to the window, pressing his palms to the fogged glass as lightning stitched silver thread across the clouds. His little brother Isaiah, still barefoot, wandered toward the microwave, searching for scraps of last night's noodles. Denise locked the door, her shoulders sagging under the invisible weight she never let her boys see. Rain began tapping the metal roof like impatient knuckles. She peeled off her damp jacket, draped it over the heater, and whispered a quiet apology to Malik, her late husband, out of habit more than belief. Some nights she felt him close, the sweet cedar scent of his cologne drifting through the room. Other nights his absence howled in the pipes. Tonight the emptiness felt supernatural, as though the storm carried messages she wasn't ready to translate. "Mom, is the library haunted?" Marcus asked without turning from the window. The elevator kept creaking after everyone left. Denise managed a soft laugh. Old cables, baby, not ghosts. Yet part of her wondered. Grief had its own machinery, and sometimes it sounded like ropes in the dark. She knelt by Isaiah, gently checking the scrapes on his heels. "Shoes tomorrow, okay? Even heroes need armor." He nodded, drowsy, leaning into her touch. A sudden gust slammed the window pane, rattling a loose latch. Denise's heart kicked. She caught her breath. Memories flashing of the night Malik's truck flipped on Riverwatch Parkway. Wet roads, bad timing, headlights like white eyes. She stood, steadying herself, brushing invisible rain from her face. On the nightstand lay her late payment notice from the motel manager, pink paper folded like a threat, and beside it a sealed envelope she had avoided opening all week. It bore the name of Branton Logistics, Malik's former employer, scripted in stark corporate blue. She reached for it, her pulse steady but high, then pulled her hand back. Not tonight. Faith first, fear later. The boys argued over the last piece of gum. To distract them, she rummaged through a grocery sack and produced a battered storybook Malik once bought at a yard sale. Midnight Magnolia, a fairy tale set in a garden that bloomed under moonlight. The cover hung by one staple, but the pages still smelled of summer. She tucked them into bed, Marcus on the left, Isaiah on the right, snuggling beside them so they could see the words. Her voice floated above the rain, warm and slow, weaving images of enchanted trees and hidden gates. The storm softened, as if eavesdropping. Mid-sentence, Isaiah's eyelids drooped. Marcus fought sleep harder, determined to reach the ending, but finally surrendered. Denise closed the book and traced their curls with trembling fingers. God, keep them dreaming, she prayed, even if I can't. The motel television next door crackled to life, late-night talk show laughter seeping through the plaster. Denise rose quietly, slipping into the bathroom where the mirror had long ago lost its silver. She stared at her reflection, half ghost in the warped glass, and practiced the smile she wore for coworkers. It looked foreign now, as though borrowed from another woman's face. A knock sounded. 3 gentle taps on the doorframe. Marcus stood there, clutching his pillow, eyes shiny in the dim light. "Mom, was Dad scared when it rained?" he asked. "No, baby," she whispered, kneeling. "Your dad loved storms, said they washed the past away so tomorrow could start clean." She kissed his forehead. He returned to bed, pillow tucked beneath his chin like a fragile secret. Alone again, Denise unfolded a small towel on the sink and placed 2 quarters on it. Tips collected from straightening study desks earlier, then added her last $2 bills. Tomorrow's lunch, tomorrow's bus fare, tomorrow's maybe. She breathed in, steady and deep, and for a moment felt the motel walls expand, granting her the private cathedral she needed. She reached for the unopened envelope. Lightning flashed, illuminating the creases of her palm. The scars from restaurant shifts before the library hired her. She slit the flap with a hairpin. Inside lay a single sheet. She scanned it once, twice. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. The letter stated the trucking company had found new evidence about the crash. Faulty brakes, not driver error, and a settlement review hearing was scheduled for next month. Compensation possible. Details soon. Tears gathered, hot and stunned. She pressed the page to her chest, shaking with a cocktail of relief, guilt, and something dangerously close to fragile hope. Through the cracked tile window, the storm exhaled, leaving only a hush of steady rain. Denise lifted her eyes to the ceiling, imagining Malik somewhere above the thunder, smiling that easy, crooked grin. "Okay," she whispered to the dark, to God, to Malik, to herself. "Okay." Outside, the vacancy sign finally steadied, its neon glow softening to a calm, unwavering pink. A passing car splashed through a puddle, and in its brief headlights Denise saw her own reflection in the window glass. A tired woman, yes, but with eyes that now carried a flicker of dawn. Chapter 3. The Envelope. Morning sunlight crawled across the marble floor of Augusta Central Library, turning the lobby into a quiet river of gold. Mr. Harris stood at the second-floor railing, watching dust motes drift like tiny prayers through the beams. All around him rose the hush of a building holding its breath, pages turning, distant printers murmuring, the faint scrape of Denise's mop down in the reading room. He should have felt proud of the calm order, but the memory of her boys eating in that parking lot pulsed behind his ribs. The storm had passed, yet its electricity lingered inside him, an unfinished chord. He retreated to his office, where a framed diploma and a dead ficus guarded the door. The blinds were half open, stripes of light slicing his desk in neat bars. Personnel files lay stacked to be signed. He skimmed each name until he reached Turner, Denise Rochelle. Thin folder, sparse history, no complaints. He opened it, flipping past tax forms and a clean attendance chart. A medical note from 2 years earlier caught his eye. Emergency room visit following a car accident. Patient, Malik Turner, deceased on arrival. Mr. Harris felt a cold bloom spread across his chest. He pictured Denise in a waiting room under fluorescent lights. Hands knotted, future shattering 1 minute at a time. He set the folder down, pressed thumb and forefinger to the bridge of his nose, and made a decision that startled even himself. He pulled stationery from a drawer, the library's oak leaf seal embossed at the top. He could have typed an email, but letters held weight, like heirlooms. He wrote in ink that bled just enough to feel human. You matter. Come see me at 4. R. Harris. He folded the paper twice, slipped it into a cream envelope, and printed her name in deliberate strokes. The moment the pen left the paper, his heart stuttered. Was he meddling, offering charity where pride might bruise? He remembered the way her eyes had searched the storm clouds as if looking for an exit only heaven could deliver, and the doubt dissolved. Downstairs, Denise hummed low to herself, an old Aretha ballad that floated through the stacks like warm smoke. She wiped fingerprints from a display case showcasing the first black newspaper in Georgia. Each sweep of the cloth felt like polishing someone else's legacy, while her own remained unseen. She tried not to think about the settlement letter burning a hole in her purse, or the fact rent was due again on Monday. She tried not to feel the pull of Mr. Harris's gaze from the mezzanine earlier, the way concern and something softer had flickered in his eyes before he quickly turned away. Near noon, the head custodian, Mrs. Carter, waddled over with a plastic bin of fresh rags and a conspiratorial grin. "Message for you, sugar," she whispered, handing Denise the sealed envelope. "Found it on the mop closet shelf. Fancy paper, too." Denise's pulse skipped. She smoothed the flap with nervous thumbs, catching a faint scent of cedar ink. For a heartbeat, she thought of Malik again. How he used to write tiny poems on napkins, leaving them in her coat pockets. She pushed the ache down and opened the envelope. 4 p.m. Meet the director. You matter. The words were simple, but they felt like mist lifting off a hidden lake. Then dread crashed in. What if she was being let go? She pictured stacks of overdue bills, the motel manager's warning smile. Her knees weakened, but she forced her back straight. If the axe had to fall, she would meet it upright. The clock hands crawled. At 2, a preschool field trip flooded the children's wing with squeals. At 3, thunderheads built again, beyond tall windows, bruising the sky the color of raw eggplant. Denise wiped her palms on her uniform and slipped into the restroom, staring at her reflection. The fluorescent light betrayed every sleepless night and unspoken prayer, but in her eyes she saw a stubborn ember that refused to die. Malik's ember passed to her, then to the boys. 3:58. She walked the echoing hallway toward administration, shoes whispering over polished tile. Shelves of African-American literature stood sentinel on both sides. Toni Morrison, Baldwin, Octavia Butler. Voices that once told her survival could be lyrical. Outside the director's door she paused, pressing the envelope to her chest as if it were armor. Inside, Mr. Harris paced, rehearsing sentences that tangled the more he spoke them. He kept seeing Denise's hand cupping her child's cheek under that broken street lamp. Love bright as neon in a city too busy to notice. He heard his mother's voice from years ago, the Sunday lesson she repeated. If God shows you a wound, son, He just invited you to heal it. At 4 exactly, Denise knocked. The sound was soft, yet resolute, like a question that already knew its answer. Mr. Harris inhaled, feeling the axis of his life tilt an inch toward something brave and irreversible. He opened the door. Lightning cracked somewhere beyond the tinted window, casting a brief white glow across both their faces. For half a second, neither spoke. Rain began again, drumming gentle rhythms on the roof, as if the storm itself leaned in to listen. Chapter 4. A Key and a Chance. Thunder rolled again, just as Denise stepped into the director's office. The lights flickered, and for an instant the room belonged to shadows. The leather chairs, the mahogany desk, the framed photos of Mr. Harris shaking hands with city council members. He motioned her toward a seat, but she remained standing, hands folded, eyes guarded yet hopeful. He tried to begin with numbers. Budget adjustments, staffing needs, performance metrics. The words dried in his mouth. Instead, he walked to the window where rain traced slow silver lines down the glass. He thought of every sermon he had half listened to about stewardship and courage, and he realized this was one of those moments when love demanded paperwork. "Denise," he said, turning, "I need you to hear me with your whole heart." She stiffened, bracing for the worst. "Your diligence has not gone unnoticed. The library needs someone who treats every corner with the respect you do. I'm offering you the building supervisor position. Full-time, health coverage, retirement, the works." Her breath snagged. For a second she just stared, lashes trembling. One hand rose to her throat, as if steadying a fragile glass inside her chest. "I don't have the certifications," she whispered. "Training is included," he replied. "You'll mentor the part-time crew, set schedules, oversee emergency protocols." He paused, gauging her silence. "And you'll make enough to breathe again." Something bright flickered behind her eyes. Relief, disbelief, fear of strings unspoken. She nodded once, but her fingers gripped the chair back so hard her knuckles blanched. Mr. Harris reached into a drawer and pulled out a slim envelope. The rain outside hushed, as though the sky itself leaned closer. He slid the envelope across the desk. A single brass key lay inside, taped to a folded lease. Denise didn't touch it. "What is that?" "An apartment on Ellis Street," he said quietly. 2 bedrooms near the Riverwalk. First 6 months covered by a community grant. After that, rent will adjust to your new income." He exhaled, bracing for protest. "You and the boys deserve a door that locks and a roof that doesn't leak." Tears filled her eyes, but she shook her head. "Why would you do this? People don't just—" "Someone did it for my mother once," he answered. The confession surprised them both. He pictured his mother washing dishes at 3 jobs, the night a church deacon handed her a rent receipt already paid. "That kindness changed everything. I've spent 30 years trying to repay it, one soul at a time." Denise pressed her palms together, trembling like a violin string. Memories crowded in. Malik's laugh, the motel's mildew, Marcus asking if cereal counted as dinner, Isaiah waking from nightmares of sirens. A small noise escaped her throat, half sob, half prayer. She covered her mouth, but the tears came anyway, clean and unstoppable. Mr. Harris rounded the desk and offered a handkerchief. She took it, felt the softness, smelled the faint cologne, and something inside her flared. A guilty awareness of how long it had been since a man stood this close without wanting rescue for himself. She stepped back, cheeks burning, reminding herself this was charity, not romance. Yet she couldn't ignore the strange current weaving between gratitude and something more complex, a promise she refused to name. "Take the key," he said gently. "Let tonight be the last night your children sleep afraid of rain." Her hand reached forward, hovered, finally closed around the brass. The metal was warm, as if holding a tiny heartbeat. In that moment, the office light caught her face, and he saw not a cleaner, not a widow, but a woman fierce enough to bend fate with a broom handle and borrowed courage. "Thank you," she managed, voice husky. "I'll earn every ounce of this." "You already did," he replied. A smile threatened his composure, so he turned away, pretending to straighten a stack of folders. "There's one more thing," he added, forcing casual into his tone. "Tomorrow, representatives from the State Library Board are touring. I'd like you to show them the restoration wing, share your perspective." She blinked, then laughed, a sound light as rain on tin. "Me? Speak to board members? No one knows the building better," he said. "Besides, stories sound different when told by someone who's lived a few chapters." Lightning flashed again, but softer, as though the storm respected this fragile truce between past sorrow and future possibility. Denise tucked the key into her pocket, where it chimed against the settlement letter she hadn't yet revealed. 2 miracles in 1 week. Surely God was plotting. As she opened the door to leave, Mr. Harris called her name. She turned. For a heartbeat, their eyes locked, his earnest, hers shining. Unspoken messages fluttered in the space between, gratitude, humility, a cautious spark that could one day ignite. But the moment passed. Professionalism reclaimed its borders. "Get some rest," he said. She nodded. "Good night, Mr. Harris." The hallway felt different as she walked, wider, almost humming. The portraits of literary giants seemed to tilt in approval. Outside, the storm relinquished its anger, leaving the evening washed and expectant. Denise stepped into the lull, clutching her purse, her heart, and a single brass key that weighed less than hope, yet carried the heft of tomorrow. Chapter 5. A Meal at Home. Late Saturday afternoon, the moving van rumbled away, leaving Denise alone with her sons on the quiet curve of Ellis Street. Sunlight slanted through live oak branches, scattering gold across the cracked sidewalk like coins someone had forgotten to pick up. The 2-story brick building smelled of fresh paint and lemon wax. Marcus darted up the stairs, Isaiah close behind, their laughter echoing around the hollow hallway as if the walls themselves rejoiced. Inside apartment 2B, the boys discovered wonders small but magical. A window that actually opened, a hallway closet deep enough to hide in, kitchen cabinets that didn't sag. Denise set the last grocery bag on the counter and paused, listening to the new silence. No motel neighbors arguing through paper-thin walls, no vacancy sign buzzing. Only the faint hum of the refrigerator and her own unsteady heartbeat. She ran a hand along the laminate countertop, marveling at its cool smoothness, then opened the fridge. A dozen eggs, real butter, smoked turkey wings for flavoring beans, items she hadn't splurged on in years. The envelope of $50 Mr. Harris had pressed into her palm rested in her purse. She had stretched it like magic, determined to make the first supper feel like a holiday. She set a pot on the stove, poured in rice and chicken stock, sprinkled thyme. The scent rose immediately, warm and promising. The boys burst into the kitchen brandishing treasures. Marcus had found a chipped but noble chess set in a hall closet. Isaiah waved a paint-smeared baseball tucked behind the radiator. Denise laughed, a sound that surprised her with its freedom. She shooed them toward the living room where sunlight pooled on the hardwood floor like honey. 5 minutes, then wash up, she called. Tonight we eat like kings. While the rice simmered, she stepped onto the small balcony. The city lay beneath a dusky lavender sky, church steeples and water towers silhouetted against the last flare of sun. From a nearby porch, someone practiced saxophone. Slow blues, notes that drifted across the street and settled on her shoulders like a shawl. She closed her eyes, and for a heartbeat she felt Malik's arms around her, his whisper, "Keep going, Dee, you're almost there." A tear slipped free, but she let it fall. Some tears tasted of grief, others of gratitude, and she couldn't always tell the difference. A knock sounded. She startled, wiped her eyes, and opened the door to find a stout woman in a floral robe holding a Pyrex dish. "Evenin', baby. Name's Miss Loretta. Apartment 1A. Saw y'all moving in, brought peach cobbler." Her voice carried the sweet rasp of gospel choirs and back porch wisdom. Denise stammered thanks. Loretta's dark eyes took in the bare windows and box-stacked corners. "No curtains yet? I got extras. Holler if you need sugar, hammer nails, prayer. Don't matter the order." She winked and left the cobbler fragrant with cinnamon on the counter. Isaiah promptly tried to peel the foil. Denise sent him to wash his hands, heart swelling at the neighborly grace. She plated the food, smoky rice studded with turkey, sweet buttered cornbread brushed with honey. Marcus set the table with 3 mismatched plates he'd found, arranging plastic cups like crystal goblets. At 7, they sat. Denise took the boys' hands, their small fingers curled around hers, warm and trusting. The apartment light flickered as if dimming for a blessing. She cleared her throat. "Father, thank you for this roof, this meal, these boys, and everyone who helped us reach this moment." Her voice trembled, but she finished, "Amen." 2 young voices echoed, "Amen." They ate. Marcus shoveled rice, eyes wide. "Tastes like Granny's house," he said, cheeks bulging. Isaiah hummed in delight, crumbs dotting his chin. Denise savored each bite slowly, tasting not just food but safety. Partway through, a buzzing vibrated on the counter. Her phone. She hesitated, then answered. "Just checking in," Mr. Harris said, his baritone softened by evening. She could picture him in his study, tie loosened, window open to the same sunset. "Everything settled?" She looked around. The glowing stove light, the boys laughing, the scent of peach sugar mingling with thyme, and felt a wave of emotion so fierce it left her breathless. "Yes," she whispered. "More than settled, thank you." A pause stretched, thick with words unsaid. He cleared his throat. "Good. Remember, tomorrow's your day, no work until Monday." She promised, hung up, and found her pulse racing faster than any coffee ever managed. When dinner ended, she sliced the cobbler, steam curling upward like a benediction. As the boys devoured sticky peaches, thunder rumbled faintly in the distance. Denise glanced at the ceiling, half expecting leaks, but the roof held strong. She gathered plates, humming the Aretha tune she'd sung earlier at work. Marcus began arranging his new chess pieces. Isaiah fell asleep mid-bite, chin glossy with syrup. She lifted him, carried him to the bedroom, painted a calming sage, and tucked him under a quilt Miss Loretta had also loaned. In the other room, Marcus carefully placed the Black King and Queen side by side, then looked up. "Mom," he said, voice hushed as a library whisper, "can we stay here forever?" Her throat tightened. "That's the plan, baby." Later, when the apartment was quiet except for the slow spin of the ceiling fan, Denise sat alone on the balcony, a mug of chamomile warming her palms. The saxophone player slipped into a tender rendition of "A Song for You." Street lamps sparked halos on wet asphalt where the evening sprinkle had cooled the heat. She thought about the settlement hearing approaching, about leading the board tour, about the way Mr. Harris's concern hummed like hidden music beneath every word he spoke. The future no longer felt like a cliff. It felt like a bridge appearing plank by plank under her feet. Inside, the clock ticked, a sound she once feared but now welcomed. Each second affirmed, "You made it this far. Keep walking." Denise closed her eyes, inhaled jasmine on the night breeze, and let a single prayer rise. May tomorrow taste as sweet as tonight. Chapter 6. Quiet Strength. Monday arrived wrapped in a peach-colored dawn that seeped through the blinds of apartment 2B. Denise rose before the boys, moving through the still rooms like a prayer made flesh. She dressed in the navy suit Loretta had pressed the night before, pinned Malik's lapel pin to her collar, and slipped the building supervisor badge into her pocket. In the hallway, she paused to study her reflection in the dark TV screen. Doubt flickered, but behind it burned a calm, steady flame she barely recognized as her own. Outside, the air smelled of magnolia sap and fresh asphalt. She walked the 12 blocks to the library, heels clicking a new rhythm of ownership. Barely 7, yet the morning traffic whispered possibilities. A jogger waving, a bus driver nodding as if they already knew her story and approved of its direction. Inside the lobby, Mr. Harris waited beside the grand staircase, adjusting his tie. He greeted her with a smile, too swift to hide relief. "Board arrives in 10. You ready?" She answered with a single confident nod. Still, an undercurrent sparked between them, charged by the memory of that key sliding across his desk. He seemed about to speak more personally, but the automatic doors hissed and 4 board members swept in, chatter and perfume preceding them. Denise guided the group through sunlit corridors, pointing out the newly organized archive drawers, the humidity sensors she had calibrated over the weekend, the children's wing she planned to repaint in warm earth tones. Her voice flowed smooth as satin, every detail delivered not from a script but from lived conviction. Mr. Harris watched, pride blooming in his chest like a secret garden. When the group reached the basement's rare document vault, the temperature alarm blinked crimson, an unexpected glitch that could ruin centuries-old manuscripts. Tension spiked. A board member gasped. Denise knelt at the control panel, fingers steady. She recalibrated the valve, reset the sensor, and within seconds the warning light faded. Applause fluttered. She rose, cheeks flushed, but her gaze remained clear, unshaken. The tour ended in the atrium, where morning light now poured through stained glass, painting her suit in shards of ruby and gold. The board chair, a stern woman with silver braids, clasped Denise's hand. "This building breathes easier under your care," she said. "Your promotion was wisdom." Denise thanked her, pulse drumming a victory cadence all its own. After the entourage departed, Mr. Harris escorted her to his office. Sunbeams danced on the oak desk between them. "I knew you'd impress," he said, voice low. She caught a softness in his eyes that unsettled and comforted at once. Before either could explore the silence, her phone vibrated. Unknown number, Atlanta area code. She excused herself and answered. The attorney's words unfurled like banners in a parade she had only dared to watch from afar. The trucking company had settled, compensation approved, funds releasing within weeks. Malik's name would be cleared in public record. Denise's knees buckled. She leaned against a study carrel wall, tears streaking her cheeks in silent rivers. Mr. Harris stepped close but stopped just shy of intrusion. "Good news?" She swallowed disbelief. "Better than good?" Her smile glowed through tears. Justice finally came home. For a moment, they stood in a pocket of stillness while the library thrummed around them. Distant laughter from the teen tech lab, the rolling cart of returned books, the elevator chiming its ascent. Denise felt the building inhale, as if acknowledging a new chapter written between its bricks. Later, she retreated to the mezzanine alone, watching patrons drift below, students, elders, toddlers clutching dinosaur picture books. She realized she no longer felt invisible among them. She was woven into the living fabric of their days. The thought lit her chest with quiet strength. At closing time, she gathered her notebook, ready to head home. Mr. Harris waited by the door. Rain tapped the skylight, gentle this time. He offered his umbrella. Their hands brushed. A quiet blush rose to both faces. "Walk you to the corner?" he asked. She hesitated, then accepted. Side by side, they stepped into the gray drizzle that smelled of river mist and unfolding futures. On Ellis Street, the boys burst from the lobby to greet her, Isaiah waving the apartment key like a flag. Marcus shouted that Miss Loretta had promised curtain fabric in Braves colors. Denise introduced the director. Polite hellos fluttered before the children raced upstairs. Mr. Harris prepared to leave, but she touched his sleeve. "Come to dinner Friday," she said on breath made of courage and something sweet. "It won't be fancy, but it'll be ours." He answered with a smile that reached all the way to weary corners of his spirit. "I'd be honored." She watched him disappear into the rain, umbrella bobbing, and wondered how destiny sometimes approached softly, like a librarian shelving books in the next aisle until you turned and found the volume you needed had already been placed in your hand. Night settled. Denise closed the apartment door, listened to the boys argue about chess strategy, and felt the walls hum with belonging. She boiled water for tea, the scent of mint rising like hope renewed. Outside, thunder lingered at the horizon, a distant drum no longer threatening but ceremonial, beating time for a life rebuilt. Denise breathed in the steady rhythm and understood at last what quiet strength really meant. Not the absence of storms, but the knowledge that she could stand within them, head high, heart open, and still hear the music of tomorrow,